It's happening.
Every review of Jurassic World Chaos Theory seems to start with the reviewer saying, "Let me first tell you just how much I loved Camp Cretaceous." Well, if you didn't love Camp Cretaceous, those reviews are probably not going to help you figure out if Chaos Theory is worth a watch for you, so here's my review. Hi, I'm Evo, and I didn't love Camp Cretaceous, but the trailer for Chaos Theory hooked me, so I was on board to check it out. I just finished watching all 10 episodes, and let's talk about it. This video will be spoiler free, and I also ask you to keep the comments spoiler free. I will be posting a review with spoilers on the channel shortly, where we can talk about the season in full and in detail. Quick recap. Camp Cretaceous started with 6 kids getting left behind on Isla Nublar after the events of the 2015 movie, and over the course of 5 seasons, these plot-armored kids survived all sorts of dinosaur encounters, becoming fast friends with each other and an ankylosaurus named Bumpy in the process. And eventually, they escape and return home. Chaos Theory kicks off after a time skip with the kids as young adults split up and living their own lives until they figure out someone is hunting them, which reunites them and sets them on a mission to uncover the mystery of who is after them. The new Netflix series flies a new flag with the title Chaos Theory, but it is very much a follow-up to Camp Cretaceous. The name change is more because Camp Cretaceous no longer made sense given that the story is no longer set at camp. Not to be mistaken for an entirely new and different series, which is kinda what I was hoping for, naive and optimistic as I am. Chaos Theory feels very similar, even pulling some of the same stunts as Camp Cretaceous, although I am happy to report the dumb robots and the dinosaur mind control did not reappear. Chaos Theory is maybe a bit more mature and a little darker than its predecessor at times, with several deaths and jump scares that I can't say much about as that gets into spoilers, which I'll save for another video. However, the original Camp Cretaceous show had moments like that as well. Perhaps Chaos Theory amped the tension up a bit, but it's not the difference between one being a kid show and the other not a kid show. In my opinion, neither show actually got scary at any point. Most characters never outgrew their plot armor, but at least that does allow the show to keep putting the characters in peril, which makes for action-packed scenes with a lot of dinosaur appearances. In between those plentiful action scenes, there are some quiet character moments, which you'll enjoy more if you were already attached to the characters going in based on Camp Cretaceous, but some of them are genuinely well done even if you come in as a fresh viewer. The characters are older now and have undergone some changes in the time jump, but they're still the characters we knew from Camp Cretaceous. As a more casual viewer, the personal aspect didn't engage me all the way through. I'm not invested in the relationship drama that was going on, but I did like the characters of Darius and Ben and their interaction, and there were some genuinely funny moments. But the humor in the show isn't a success all the way through, with plenty of jokes falling flat, at least for me. Something about the line delivery and some awkward dialogue. Anyway, in my opinion, the show was at its best when it was just the Ben and Darius road trip. Yaz and Kenji were perfectly fine as characters, and they both deal with some deep shit, to put it that way, but any deep shit is hampered by the fact that the show is packaged in a way to still be easily digestible for younger audiences. Like, it peers into the depth, it lets us have a glimpse down there, but it never actually dives in to explore it. Sammy is plain annoying, I don't like her at all, especially her introductory episode. She was Sammy dialed up to 11, and I don't even like her when she's dialed back to 2. The plot takes the characters all over the place, and the show gives us a much better look at dinosaurs in our world than Jurassic World Dominion did, so I have to give props for that. The mystery that kicks off the show and runs throughout definitely kept me curious. I did want to keep watching to find out the answer, so the hook was effective. But I caught my cursor hovering over that skip 10 seconds button, and it took a lot not to skip ahead at times and not give in to that temptation. Because, yeah, I wanted to see the mystery get solved, I wanted to get to the end, I wanted to have the answers. I definitely didn't want to stop watching, but the show didn't succeed in keeping me entertained and invested all the way through, and I was like, yeah, just get to the point. I was getting impatient, especially when the characters went on little side quests, one of which turned out to be loosely folded into the overall plot, but that was only revealed at the end of said side quest. Every time the characters were pulled off to the side to do something that wasn't moving the plot forward, I was like, oh come on, really? It's only 10 short episodes, you don't need padding like this. Then, eventually, you get to the final episode, and it's titled The End of the Beginning. And it truly is. Just the beginning, and not a proper end. The mystery is only solved in part, with most questions left unanswered. Of course, with the purpose of getting you to watch the second season, which I believe is coming out at the end of summer this year. I understand why it was done that way. Everyone knows Netflix wants to keep you dangling so you keep your subscription, but it was a pretty unfulfilling end for someone like me who hates being left feeling curious. I don't mind stories setting up a future and a continuation, but it does also need to wrap up what it started and find a balance between completing a story and setting up the future. And in my opinion, season 1 doesn't do that. It doesn't even fail at doing that, it just outright doesn't attempt to wrap things up at all. I have a sense that once season 2 comes out, I'll probably describe the two seasons as season 1 part 1 and season 1 part 2. Season 1 is really just the first half of the story. God, maybe even just the first third, depending on how far they will stretch this out. Imagine going to see a movie and halfway through, the screen cuts to black and the lights come on and you get ushered out of the theater with a, well, we'll see you back here in a few months for the rest. That's my experience of Chaos Theory Season 1. So do I recommend this show to people who weren't into Camp Cretaceous, like myself? Chaos Theory is better than anything Camp Cretaceous has done, in my opinion. While it's still a kids show, it has fewer moments that stood out to me as childish or annoying or cringy, and it does touch on some deeper subjects. Although it quickly pulls its hand back before it gets burned, which is to say it doesn't commit to the real world repercussions in a meaningful way. Maybe the follow-up will change that. Maybe the second season will dive into that depth and explore the consequences in a way that isn't neatly resolved with a time jump and some off-screen therapy. But I'm reviewing season 1 here. They chose to put an incomplete story out there, and that has consequences that they can't avoid. Based on what I've seen so far though, I don't think the second season will give me what I want. What I want from a Jurassic-based series is for it to use the extra runtime to explore a depth, darkness, and maturity in the characters and the world that the movies don't have time for, given the action blockbuster direction the franchise has taken. Given that the movies, from my perspective, are targeting a younger and younger demographic anyway, Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory are a continuation of that, whereas I'd want the franchise to take a risk, to use a different medium and platform to go in a darker direction, back to where it came from, and honor the horror of the novel that started it all. But speaking of the franchise, I think if you love this franchise and you want to know the full story, you should probably check out Chaos Theory. There's some interesting stuff in there, and it gives backstory to the modern era of the Jurassic World that could very well turn out to be integral to the next movie coming out in 2025. However, I think you might be better off just waiting for the second season to drop and then binge watch it all at once, so the end of this first season doesn't leave you hanging. Of course, you do risk getting exposed to spoilers in the meantime, but if you're not an invested superfan to begin with, I really don't think the spoilers will bother you much. Nothing truly surprising happens. And if you are an invested superfan, well, then you're not watching this video. You're rewatching season 1 of Camp Cretaceous at this point. Right after this, I'm going to work on a spoiler-filled review, so come back to the channel after you've watched the show to watch that video, or come check it out if you want to know what happens in Chaos Theory without having to watch the show yourself if you're not interested. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, I hope you'll enjoy Chaos Theory.